Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast. Join your host, Nicole Cox, as she dives into the real stories, tips, secrets, and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside the trade world. Nick is here to help you break free from the grind, reduce money stress, and build a trade business that truly works for you. So grab a brew, put your phone on silent, and get ready to be inspired.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Tradies in Business podcast. I have another guest episode this week, and you already know that because you would have seen it in the title. I don't know why I need to tell you, but it is important that you are aware I have a wonderful gentleman with me today, Anthony Hobson from Urban Broker. Anthony's going to chat to us today about a concept that I think is going to make you stop and think about yourself, your relationship with money, where you're headed, what you're doing, because we're talking about, not only are we talking about finances, we're talking about breath work, we're talking about emotional regulation. There's a whole bunch going on in today's episode. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Nick. Lovely to be here.
Wonderful. Now, can you tell me, or tell our listeners, because we've just had an excellent chat, we have a lot in common. I'm really keen to hear, first of all, how did you become a broker? I think let's call it out for what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes financial brokers get a bit of a bad name. So let's talk about this stuff first, and then we'll go into the really cool stuff.
Yeah, thank you. So this was back in 2016, and up until that point, I'd been in the banks from about 2002. So long time in the banks, lots of different roles, different sales roles, leadership roles. And broker used to be a bit of a dirty word in banking, particularly in Big Four banking.
Yeah.
And the relationship between what they call first party or first channel and third party being introduced business to banks. It was I definitely went through a phase where I didn't have much respect for brokers, but the reality was I actually didn't know what it was, exactly what it was all about at different times. But the latter part of my career was in a management role, and it was actually how to better the relationship between third party, first party, so the broker channel and retail distribution. I then finished in a sales role, so I stepped down from leadership back into sales. So I was doing mortgages again, and I just got to this point where I felt like I was helping people, but I actually couldn't completely help them. In as much as having more choice. So I was a bit of representing a bank, you're like a one-trick pony. You can kind of just offer what you've got. And I got really curious about the broking world, was pretty grateful to know really good brokers in my area, as well as in Sydney, and just open up conversations. And they all said to me, hey, you'd be great, give it a go. And I thought at the time, look, being from salaried for so long to being self-employed, it was a big risk decision to make. But I thought, okay, I'm pretty employable. If it doesn't work out, had a bit of a backstop in terms of financial setup that I was able to curate at the time with my ex-wife, and just went for it. Had a great first year, like hugely successful. It was like a decision that was made like, gosh, I wish I had done this years ago. Yeah. So then the journey since then, it's like running a business, there's really great wins, there's high highs, and there's some really low lows. And so it's just about, riding out what that is.
I'm lucky to have several brokers, and I've spoken on the podcast before. I'm really fortunate to have created a great team that surrounds me, because in business, sometimes it can be really hard to get finances.
Yeah.
And particularly as a small business owner, it can be very, very challenging. And I have fortunately been in contact with an excellent accountant who's almost like my other dad. And he's helped me build out my team of professionals, because I've needed a real range of professionals. And what I find consistently is small business owners, they require somebody that can do something a bit different. Sometimes we need a different kind of solution. We need our eyes opened about what's possible to us. And brokers do a fantastic job of doing this, despite what was a difficult reputation, I'm sure, many years ago. I don't see it so much now.
Mm.
Anthony, have you found that you have a different relationship with your clients now than you were able to have when you were working in the banking system?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that, I mean, back then, there's that old textbook stuff around, quote unquote sales and
Mm.
um, all the little different things you go through and building rapport with someone. But there's something different about now, obviously running my own business and particularly looking after a lot of self-employed people, just in terms of what that piece looks like, as opposed to being a salaried staff member at a big bank.
Mm.
Um, I find that uh, just being able to have real conversations with people, how they're going in business, and talking about the crunchy bits, the hard parts, and whether that's seasonal trade impacts, whether there's been fallouts from big global events, whether there's whether they've done really really well, but just haven't managed the taxation part well, and they might have ATO issues and how to navigate that. So
It's kind of like speaking to the old-fashioned branch manager. Now, I can remember as a kid, dad was a plasterer, mum would do the pays up on a Friday. We'd go to the bank with the little cash envelopes and get cash out to give to the team. And the bank manager would always, or I imagine it must have been a branch manager, would always come out and say hello, because they're a small business, obviously, and they clearly put a fair bit of money through that bank branch. And when I first started in business, we still had a local branch manager that we can go and talk to. They owned their branch. It was Bank of Queensland. They've only recently, I think in the past 4 months, moved away from branches being owned by franchisees, I guess. And now we've gone into corporation as far as their banking structure is concerned. But it meant that I could go and have a conversation and explain where I'm at. And it changes what's available once they have a deeper understanding of where you're at, that I just don't think you can get with a whole bunch of numbers on a piece of paper. And that's been my experience, or at least my recent experience with the big banks. Whereas coming to talk to a broker means I can tell you my entire story. You can understand what's going on behind the scenes and where I'm headed, most importantly, which totally changes what's available, because you've got a big playbook of stuff that the banks, well, they probably don't really want us to know about it, but they also don't necessarily have products that are similar to be able to offer. Do you find that in your experience, you're able to create better quality solutions for your clients?
yeah, absolutely. It's coming back to that one trick pony saying, like literally just now for people that run business and have their tax returns done, we're in this really interesting time where it's this April, May period where certain banks accept the dates of financials to be like quite older, which is really bizarre because you've got a couple of banks that will accept your tax returns from 2022 and 2023 up until like the middle of May of 2025.
Wow.
And then you've got others that have a shortened time frame. So as soon as like February clicks over, they want to make sure you've done your 2024 financials and tax returns.
Yeah.
And then obviously a whole raft of things in between where some will want your interim accounts, some will want your BAS statements. Obviously the other end of that is, some don't want to see anything and you just kind of sign a piece of paper saying you can afford it.
Mm.
But obviously the trade-off with that sort of finance is it's more flexible, so therefore the interest rate and the fee structure is higher.
Yeah, I totally understand the need for it. And I find it a shame because as a small business owner, we often are left with very little choice. And
Mm.
quite frequently, unfortunately, it's a slightly, not always a hugely higher interest rate, but a slightly higher interest rate. However, if that gets us closer to those goals that we're all working towards, then it's certainly got to be a discussion that we're prepared to have. Anthony, when you think about your clients, are there typical problems that you're able to solve as a broker that you know that the banks aren't able to?
Yes. And that could be in so many different ways. So it could be if it's first home buyers trying to get into the market and what their deposit looks like. because some banks, as I said before, there's different policies and parameters that they work with. That opens up whether or not there's guarantor loans with family assistance, because not all the banks and lenders do that. There's a panel of lenders that are on the government's approved guarantee scheme, so not all the banks and lenders are on that panel. When it comes to self-employed, same again. If you're purchasing property, or if you're investing in property, or if you're just wanting to refinance and access equity to maybe inject more money into the business, there's all different parameters that are available. And that's probably the best part of my job, which is to aim to find out, what's the pain point, what's the issue that someone has, where do they want to go, and how can I get them there?
Mm.
And that trade-off, obviously you try to do it as competitively as you can, but there are times where that trade-off could be slightly different pricing. But then there's the thing that happens as well, which is the opportunity cost.
That's right.
It's kind of like, well, if you don't get into a certain market at a certain time, or if you wait too long to address these other things, then what happens to the marketing in that time?
Yeah.
Which of course, I don't profess to be a genie. Like I can't, I'm not a fortune teller, but I just try to help people with what they have up until now, and then where they want to go, and just give them the pros and cons. Yeah.
If you ever manage to find a fortune teller that's accurate, will you let me know? Can we just do a little deal and, I'll help you out, you help me out. That'd be great.
Yeah, sure thing.
I haven't met one yet. Anthony, let's talk breathwork, because this is how you and I began chatting, was actually the way you make them work together. But first I want to understand, or I'd like our listeners to understand, because we've chatted before. How did you first come into breathwork? How did it become part of your life on a regular basis?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So it was therapeutically. So I went through a bit of a time in 2020. I'd had the end of another relationship. At the time, I lost my dad that year. Business was going okay, but I was also having to put out fires and having a pretty problematic relationship with my ex-wife. So there were all these sort of things outside of business that were just really impacting me. I used to drink quite a bit of alcohol too. So up until that point, I think the longest I've been with alcohol was maybe a month or 2 months, if that, since, late teens. So I was just saying yes to different things. So saying yes to doing a challenge with a friend where I wasn't going to drink alcohol for a month. That month has now turned into, I still haven't drank since 2020, and it's 2025.
That's a big change.
Yeah, it's huge change. And there's a whole conversation we could have about that at another time. But the breath work, again, I was just saying yes to different things. I hadn't even really heard of it, didn't really know much about it. And I did a session therapeutically, and I had the biggest sort of emotional response and release, and went to places in my mind that I hadn't tapped previously. So I'm a huge advocate for talk therapy. I believe that's important. And it was kind of like these bits that talk therapy just didn't quite, it's like it just doesn't quite hit the sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just blown away by it. I was like, what the hell was that? Like, that was just my own breath. There were no substances. There was no environmental change. It was just laying on the ground in a very basic room, and just in my own breath. So that got me really curious to do more of it when it seemed okay therapeutically. And then I just followed the yes. I had some friends that had done an instructor's program, and they raved about it. I'd seen it come up on Instagram, how your phone kind of listens to you, and you have these conversations, and then something pops up. And so that worked, because I clicked the button, I followed it. And I kind of didn't think that I'd be an instructor. And I definitely felt like I had imposter syndrome, because when I got there, the backstory being that I put my name down and it was full. And then I think 2 or 2.5 weeks before it was due to start, someone had dropped out. So they contacted me and said, yep, you can come down. And it's a Jindabyne. So it's like, it just worked. I didn't have the kids, like the timing just worked. Um, and I got there and there were these people that were deep into breath work, other spiritual practices, deep into personal training, big fitness sort of focus. Some people had come from across the country. One guy flew from Scotland.
Oh, wow.
I'm this random finance broker, you know. I just rocked up at this instructors program, not even wanting to be an instructor,
Yep.
but just wanting to get a deeper understanding as to how does the breath do this to the body. So where's the scientific part? And the thing that I really love about particularly that academy is a real passion for where the science meets the spirit and how to make sense of what's happening to your body to get the insight. Yep. It's kind of like wisdom and insight. But I left that weekend starting off with imposter syndrome, and I left that weekend just going, yep, this is absolutely what I need to follow and to keep doing more of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's an interesting journey, and I can really, when you speak out where you were at the time when you gave it a go, I can see how strongly you would be connected to that. And I think most people would if they were brave enough to give it a try. Having experienced it a couple of times, I shared with you, and our listeners, long-term listeners may remember, we had a men's retreat and a ladies' retreat, I think 2 or 3 years ago now, where individually both groups did breath work with an instructor. It was amazing to see and hear the results from that. And many of our people have gone on to do more work in that area because it was an eye opener for them, something they hadn't considered before.
Mm.
Anthony, I'm really intrigued. How on earth did you take your personal experience and recognize that there might be a way for the two things that you do and love and are passionate about to come together?
Yeah. It was I think it was May of last year, just over a year or so ago, or maybe a little bit earlier. I did the master's part of the academy in breathwork, and I just had this feeling that in a lot of my life up until that point, I'd been a bit of a black and white thinker, all or nothing. It's this or that. Pick one, basically. And I was just having this moment challenging myself, going, does it need to be that? Well, firstly, why is that? Like, where's that thinking coming from? And that's a whole different thing, but it doesn't need to be that. And I was just thinking about how a lot of decisions that we make, I believe, and a lot of personal reflection from making a lot of bad choices financially myself, it comes from fear, ego, and anxiety. And I just kept saying that to myself, like fear, ego, and anxiety really drive the bus with bad financial decisions. And similarly, they don't let you take advantage of good financial opportunities that come up.
Mm.
And then the insight was that I know that with myself, I've had profound dissolving of the ego, balancing out anxiety, and really grappling with what it is that I fear through breath work. And that's how it came to be, which is, okay, well, how can I then help people make better financial decisions more consistently? I say more consistently deliberately because it's like, this is not the silver bullet. So
Yeah.
people will still make bad financial decisions. I still make bad financial decisions. So how can we do better decisions more consistently? And it's through more consistently being emotionally regulated. So breath work as a tool to emotionally regulate, because the breath like the remote control to the body. There's this saying, Amrit Desai, I think it was, the breath is the mind made visible, and if you want to change your mind, change your breath.
It's a cracking quote.
Yeah, yeah. And so, just learning how to regulate, and part of that as well is actually getting used to your own body, because I believe that I know that I've been up until the last couple of years really disconnected from my body. It's like, how do I actually tune in and go, oh, hang on, I'm a bit dysregulated here. I'm a bit heightened. what's driving that? Okay, now that I've clocked that, now I can do the following breath flows, breath exercises to shift my state of being. And I believe um, the important part that I'm trying to message about is, what's underneath addictive spending, what's underneath adding to cart, what's underneath trying to buy people lunch and shout drinks when you know that you can't afford it. Um, so that keeping up with the Joneses type spending and the latest flashy car and all that sort of stuff, and extends across to gambling as well. So what are the states of being that I can help people just recognize and then try to help them do that better? I don't go out there saying that I'm a financial counselor. I have done studies and I've done a graduate certificate in counseling, but that was just more of a curiosity piece. So what I see my role in doing is helping people better recognize their state of being, bring some awareness to their spending, which, we can do deep dives in how people are spending their money, which can be confronting, particularly for couples, because there can be some stuff that comes up with, the partner doesn't know that I spend this or save this or, all that sort of stuff as well. And then, help people do it better. Sorry, I ramble on a bit, but I'm pretty passionate about that.
We like it. I'm just sitting here thinking about some of the people that we work with, and we all have different attachments and ideas around money, and it can be quite tricky to navigate, certainly from a coach's point of view, because we have some pretty deep conversations about money. We've got to talk about money. That's part of business. Full stop. I was going to say success, but I don't know that you have to be financially successful to be a good business owner. I think that you can do them differently. And I like the idea perhaps of coming back to those roots of what money meant to us when we were kids. And so many tradies come from tradie families, and we have a pretty fractured relationship with money because there wasn't much around when we were kids. Or the converse can be true. And we had parents who did really well in business and they had a lot of money. And, there are some set beliefs that come with that as well that I think could do with challenging for all of us at all times. Is that sort of a bit of a part of what you do, Anthony, is helping people understand what their relationship with money is and then challenging perhaps where they currently sit?
Yeah, definitely. So I see my role as, in a way, holding up a mirror,
Mhm.
because it's about recognizing what your relationship to money could be or may have consistently been in your life. Bring awareness to that, and then, okay, well, this is what I can help you with in terms of the emotional regulated piece, but then being able to then refer people to specialists that can help. And that's the thing. It's like there is help that's out there, but some people you don't know where to go for help.
Mm.
Again, that ego could come into play as well, which is being too afraid to ask for help or not, not wanting to.
Yep.
Yeah.
I I wonder if it's going to be challenging for people because well, actually, I'm not even going to go down that path because I'm making assumptions. Instead, I'm going to ask some questions, Anthony. I'm very good at assuming. I should just ask questions. When people come to you and you want to work with them on a blend, you want to work with the breathwork and you want to work with them to help them obtain some finance, how do you connect the two? Are they coming to you knowing that that's what you're doing, or are they coming for one or the other and it becomes part of a bigger conversation?
I guess it can happen It can happen organically if I'm in the role of finance broker, and they check out my link tree and other services I have, or if it's mentioned in conversation, so that can happen organically. I get people coming to me specifically for breathwork therapeutically, and also in like workshop style settings, and that can, I guess, it can come from anywhere. Um, for the people specifically that I'm blending the two, I guess if I can just talk a little bit about
Really?
what that process is. So, a huge part is around trying to understand where they're coming from and what the goals actually are.
Mhm.
Uh, a really fundamental part is actually having like an analysis done on their spending,
Yep.
because a lot of people actually don't know what they're spending.
Mhm.
It's so easy to just tap and go with the card. It's so easy just to double click on the phone and add to cart, Apple Pay or whatever, the transaction's done. A lot of businesses in particular still have mixed business and personal spending.
Mhm.
So my role in that part is to bring some real honest and direct feedback and awareness, which can be confronting. That can be confronting, because there can be a lot of habitual stuff that is unearthed with that, and particularly in couple settings. So sometimes in a partnership, one person runs point on the finance, and the other person just goes, "Oh, that's his job or her job or whatever." So what I'm also passionate about is just trying to help that other person that typically might shrug that off and just understand that a bit more. Like, do they potentially want to actually understand and have more involvement in how things are running financially, but what's something that's maybe holding them back in taking that step? And then that could have lots of different consequences. That could be a great shift in that dynamic, and then things could thrive. At the other end of that could be a shift which just goes, "Oh, hang on, we're not on the same page here," and then that could happen too. And I guess that's where that confronting component comes from.
Mm.
But then, specific breath flows and breath patterns in terms of techniques and sessions that we do, and again, just coming back to, okay, this is what I'm seeing, and if what you're wanting to do is something completely different here, then how do we get you on that track?
Mm.
Yeah.
Anthony, I'm going to ask a really woo-woo question. So listeners are used to me asking woo-woo questions, but I'm interested to see whether breathwork is something that can clear this. I've experienced a couple of people in my life, not necessarily through coaching, that should have been financially wildly successful. Should have been. And in my opinion, at least, I think they're getting in the way and they're blocking it because they don't believe they're worth the financial success. And so my question to you is, have you ever come across somebody like that? Do you believe in the concept that I'm kind of tabling here? And do you believe that breathwork could clear that for them?
100%.
Mm.
So I really believe that. There's that whole fear of success, which can override fear of failure. Like, "Oh, what if this actually works out? What if I actually really do well?" And there's that real worthiness piece underneath that. I think that, and again, breathwork as a tool, I believe as a tool, and there are many tools. So I'm not here saying that, this is the thing to do. The insight that I've got personally from breathwork, it's almost like, I explained it to someone where those deeper therapeutic sessions. So we're talking, you're in breath for maybe close to an hour and a half, roughly. And so those deeper sessions have been, like, just one of those has been the equivalent of almost 10 talk therapy sessions
Wow.
for me.
Mm.
And I have similar feedback both from people that I've been on those experiences with, instructors, and then people that I've actually led through those experiences as well.
Mm.
So yeah, hugely powerful and a great tool to bring forward that insight. And almost in a way, it's like, I know that I've kind of zoomed out on myself and previous either life events or conversations, and then that little light bulb going, "Oh yeah, actually, maybe I didn't do this thing because I thought that I wasn't good enough, or wasn't worthy for it, or simply maybe I went too hard on this thing in my life, because it was out of ego and out of fear, because what was actually underneath that could have been, an abandonment wound or something else from childhood." So, yeah, I really say yes. I really believe that some people get in their own way. However, some people aren't conscious of that,
Yeah.
and so it's just helping gently, just bring that mirror and helping people become aware of it, and then you're aware of it. Okay, what do we do? Let's do something about it.
Mm. Okay, you've stroked my ego. Thank you. That was a long-held belief. Nobody's ever confirmed it before. I don't think it before either, to be honest.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. So, yeah.
It's the couple of times I've really seen it. Unfortunately, I've not been in the right position to be able to help those people. And I hope that I don't think they're listeners, but if, the universe does amazing things, perhaps somehow they'll connect to the idea that there's an opportunity there for them. Anthony, what do you wish people knew about money?
Oh, this is a good one. It's taken me a while to get to this point in where my belief is about it. And this might sound a little bit woo-woo, but money is energy. And it's what are we exchanging in place of it? And just really, I know that might sound a bit simplistic, but just really letting that land. Like, what is it that I'm exchanging here? And the big thing is time. So it's, I saw this great thing the other day recently, which is, saving money to buy, say, a vehicle, a new car. And it's taking me time to save that money to buy that car. And ironically, I lose the most important thing, which is it takes my time. I've lost my money, and it's a depreciating asset that I buy. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need cars. I'm just saying that the decisions that we make, I think that we need to really actually bring back to an exchange level. And again, make an informed decision about what you're doing. Make that decision from an emotionally grounded place instead of making that decision from being emotionally dysregulated and getting yourself into, financial arrangements that are not great. Could be types of car finance that just don't make sense, but you kind of did it out of fear, ego, anxiety. Yeah.
Anthony, I have loved this chat, and I know that there's a segment of our listeners that'll be like, I don't know, they know what they're talking about. And then there'll be another segment of listeners that'll be like, wow, this is mind-blowing and I want to learn some more. Where can people learn more about you, Anthony?
Yeah, so if they go to Instagram, and my handle is @_urban_broker. There's a link tree as well with the same name, and basically you can find me there, and you can set up a call, have a chat, see where you're at. If it's about just breathwork, we can explore that. If it's about just finance broking, which is both residential, commercial finance, asset finance, we can cover that. And if it's a blend of the two, we can do that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anthony, I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes for anybody listening. Thank you so much for being here. I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting about this with you today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Tradies in Business podcast with Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.